Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pharmaceutical Soccer. So excited to be here. Of course, as always, I am with Clay Trainum, Valer Shabilla, coming off of a 3-point weekend. Feels nice to be back here, doesn't it?
I mean, I had a rare 9-point weekend. These things don't happen in my world very often, so I have to celebrate them. Nashville won, Everton won, and Union Berlin won. I think that's maybe happened 4 or 5 weekends total in the last 3 years.
I did have to think about which one the third one was. Like, I knew the two, but I did have to think about which one the third one was.
I'm definitely a bigger fan of the first two, but
yes.
I've as has been established, I've been rocking with Union since they've been in second division. So I haven't
Valer,
forgotten. I'm
you
just a
had a
little more
3-point
casual.
weekend because you don't claim to be a Nashville soccer fan. So you had a 3-point weekend. How was
I've
your
never
weekend?
said any words of anything about Nashville soccer. I have no idea what you're talking about. Arsenal did win, and 5-0 as well as Nashville SC winning 5-1. So I saw a lot of goals on Saturday, which was nice. Some of them in person, some of them not. Um, it was nice to have a Arsenal game again and be in home for it. Home as in Nashville. And yeah, no, this is good. It's good. I didn't do anything else really the weekend. It was pretty chill. And what was I gonna say? Oh, well, I guess all three of us, our teams won. I was actually thinking about that Sunday when Everton pulled it through. It's like, look at that. It happened. It doesn't happen often, honestly. And usually Clay is the problem, but Steven's team the last few years hasn't been
not
great.
since January. Not since January.
Yeah.
Who won
Because
2
Everton
trophies
stopped
last
5 in
year
the
and
form
who
table
won
since
0
January.
trophies last year?
What does that have to do with winning every week, though? You won in like 1 month period, and then every weekend you didn't win. So for 2 seasons, I've had to come here and be like,
I'm
I have to hear you. No,
I'm
I've had to hear you for like an entire like year of doing this show of being like, oh, I don't want to talk about the Premier League. So no, when you're not gonna claim that your team has been winning. Your team won trophies, congratulations. But week to week, you haven't been that good.
Hey, neither of your teams have ever won a Florida Cup.
That is true.
yeah.
Neither has the Florida team, surprisingly. So it's a really interesting one.
I will say,
And for those wondering, these teams
uh,
are all in England, which is not what this podcast is about. So,
I was going to
Steven,
say
tell
I
us
was
about your
brought back
weekend that
down.
has nothing to do with your team in England.
Of course,
I was
Valer
brought back down to
only
earth
wants to
because my
change the
wife did
subject.
kick my ass in Parks, the board game, last night. So it wasn't full of wins. That was my weekend. Steven, we don't really care about your weekend. Let's talk about soccer.
I was gonna say I didn't really ask about weekend. I had a good weekend. It was chill. I went to IKEA. I forgot the last time I've been to IKEA, which, by the way, is awesome. I do love IKEA. So yeah, that was my weekend. And I watched Nashville soccer beat Orlando City 5-1. Which, by the way, I'm never close when it comes to my predictions normally, but golly, I almost had that one soup to nuts, just ready to go. I mean, Nashville is back-ish. I don't know. It obviously different being at home. We had a long away kind of string, a lot of West Coast matches. You could kind of see the exhaustion. Finally coming back and playing an Orlando team that is prioritizing the League's Cup instead of MLS at the current moment. Do you feel extremely confident that it was just a lull after that kind of, or are the same problems still kind of there for you in regards to, hey, this is fun, but we still have some stuff to work out?
I mean, obviously, we'll talk more about the game specifically in the second segment, but I do think that this was the bounce back that we've been looking for the last 2 weeks, and I think that is tied directly to playing at home. So Walker Zimmerman, after the game on 360, he was interviewed. He was talking about how they've been keeping track of their firsts under BJ Callahan on a board at the during practice at the training facility. And the thing that stuck out this week on this board of first was first 3-game losing streak. And I think that when you're playing on the road in MLS, it's already a pretty difficult proposition to begin with. But when you're at home and that is drilled into your head over and over and over again, I'm sure it's very helpful that Orlando rotated its squad, but the way that Nashville played on Saturday, I don't think it would have mattered. I think that, I mean, Nashville started that game on the front foot and never took off the gas. It was very similar to the Chicago or the Chicago match uh, earlier this season, or honestly, even though it played out a little bit differently, the DC match, where you never really had a doubt who was going to win that game.
I mean, I'm not sure specifically if the rotated. I don't know if we would have won 5-1 without Orlando
No,
having.
I don't think the result would have changed. Though. I think Nashville's winning that game with the
Yeah,
way they
I
played.
agree with you. I think you're extremely correct. Nashville coming out specifically on the front, like looking like they were going to, be the ones, especially after 90 minutes, right? We even saw it, against St. Louis, against New York, where in the first 10 minutes we should have won that game, but then we dropped off the last 80. That didn't happen against Orlando, and I think it was super nice to see Nashville kind of take that full complete game, to fruition, especially at home. Seemed like the vibes in the stadium were terrific. I mean, you could comment on that because you were there, but I mean, it's always nice to come back and have your team score 5 goals at home.
Well, I mean, I do think that we have seen in the past, even before BJ Callahan, an early goal in a Nashville game with Nashville's defensive record just changes everything. And so when you're at home and you score an early goal, the the opposition has to change their plans almost immediately,
Mhm.
which obviously suits Nashville quite a bit. Um, I will say, like, one of the big indicators that BJ wanted some changes was like he made a couple of, he's gotten this wrong a few times this season, but he definitely didn't on Saturday. He made a couple of brave choices with the lineup, putting it out there and seeing what he could get out of it, and it paid off pretty well. For the way that Nashville performed. But yeah, in terms of like just mentality, coming out, playing at home, getting that early goal, I mean, it was never in doubt after the third minute for me.
And I would say both in the St. Louis game. I don't really remember if this happened in the San Diego game, but the St. Louis game and the NYCFC game, Nashville started just as well. But being able to actually get that goal, and I'm so sorry if one of you already said this because I just realized I didn't listen because I was on a phone call. But if Nashville being able to actually convert that pressure into a goal is what set them apart, because scoring 2 minutes in was actually like, oh, they're not here to play. But then after that goal, what we saw in NYCFC, they took the lead as well, and they didn't keep the pressure on. And so some of that was NYCFC forcing their ways. We talked about that, but being able to not take your foot off the gas really, really elevated this. Even if the goals weren't coming right away after that first one, just putting Orlando in a British way under the cosh was kind of enough to force them. And I do believe those marginal things, those small margins that make huge difference in these soccer games, are due to the environment they are in. Whether it's Geodis Park, whether it's the energy the fans bring, sleeping in your own bed, being in a place where not only you feel comfortable, but also as a team, as a squad, you know very well, and you come in with this mentality. And yes, these things are not in a stat sheet. I will never be able to quantify that. However, you can feel it in that stadium, and it doesn't always pan out. But when it does, it's clearly that those are the things that push them over the edge.
And what you can quantify that is on there is 12 unbeaten at home, and not all of those were a cakewalk. So there's if Nashville were to give up a third minute goal, how many times have we said they gave up a goal but we weren't really worried? I mean, there's just something different about playing at home, and honestly, this fan base has been begging for that for ever since they moved to Geodis, because that second year at Nissan, I mean, obviously they went unbeaten at home, but that second year at Nissan, even the early goals didn't bother you because what Nashville had shown was they could come back, and so sort of reestablishing that dominance at home. And the thing that's different now from what it was then is that it wasn't coming back to draw. It's coming back and winning. They didn't have to do that this week, obviously, but it is one of those things about finally feeling like you're invincible at home, and you're not. I mean, there's going to be things that happen, but like that feeling is a really good thing to play with in a game where confidence is so much a part of the equation, like it is in soccer.
Well, I think it's extremely eye-opening as well, to just kind of look at we do look at losses in doom and gloom scenarios, right? Like, we thought NYCFC was
You
not a
especially.
terrific the absolutely. I mean, me especially. Like, it is tough because, like, you see a team play the same way, like, some way throughout the entire season, and then, fall off for a couple matches, and you're wondering, "Oh god, what is happening?" Then you look at the results of, like, around the league, last week, of Miami absolutely having a howler against DC at home. Well, in DC, Cincinnati not being able to get a win, so Nashville's still in 3rd place in the East specifically. I believe they're 4th in the Supporter Shield, 5th in the Supporter Shield, tied for 4th, whatever, in the Supporter Shield race. They're still in that upper echelon of teams, even going with 3 losses in a row. Do you, there's nothing that is taking away from that feeling at all, right? Like, you guys still feel like we're in that upper echelon of teams as of now?
I mean, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
they are. Go ahead.
I do think Nashville has what it takes to be there, and they've had it throughout the season. I have often said I don't believe this team is a Supporter Shield team yet, and that's not a dig on Nashville. I just look at what it has taken to win the Supporter Shield the last few seasons, and I don't see that from Nashville SC yet. Doesn't mean they can't get there, but I've been consistent about this even when Nashville weren't losing a single game in I don't know how many games. Clay and I think Steven, you might have agreed with us that Nashville isn't going to be the one winning the Supporter Shield, most likely. Not because they can't do it, it's just because these losses came at a time, but also it's too early. We've talked about this. Now, are they still in the sort of upper tier of MLS? Maybe they're not tier one, but I would say they're either low tier one or high tier two. I wouldn't go lower than that. And that in itself, that statement in itself, is the biggest surprise probably of the season for a team that finished 13th last season. I just want to remind everybody and signed 12 new players.
I mean, the thing that is this is the Evertonian in me coming out. Nashville is just as close to winning the Supporter Shield as they are to not having home field advantage. So it is going to be a tight race in the East. I do think that San Diego has an edge up on everyone by not having to go through that top part of the East. But Nashville will have plenty to say about how the Supporter Shield plays out. And I think folks need to keep that in mind. Like, they're not going to play Philly again. They already beat Philly twice, but they are going to play Cincinnati again. They are going to play Miami again. Like, there are chances to really, really be involved in whatever that conversation about the Supporter Shield is. I don't think they're going to win it. I think Miami has the inside track on everyone, uh, which is what we've been saying on here for a few weeks at this point. But Miami keeps not putting in results. Those 3 games in hand don't look as massive as they do, especially if they keep going through Leagues Cup. And I do think it is interesting. There's going to be a selection dilemma coming up here a little bit later in the season because Nashville will play FC Cincinnati away and then a few days later play Philly in the Open Cup semifinal. And Nashville will be in the situation that Orlando was just in this past weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll talk about Orlando's situation. We'll kind of talk about the match itself because I think there's a decent amount to talk about. And then, of course, we got to continue talking about the rest of MLS and kind of what's going on in that Supporter Shield race. And, of course, preview Atlanta. We're going to do that, of course, next right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer at Pharma Soccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Of course, please make sure you are checking out 615soccer.com as well. If you spell it all out in your browser, it'll take you to 615soccer.com, where there is a fun bunch of content that you can check out involving Nashville soccer. Player ratings always going down. I do appreciate the player ratings, even though I disagree in some of them, but that's fine. That's the conversation that you can have. And I'm not the smart one of the conglomerate media company. What are we?
That's the nicest thing that Steven has ever said about us, and it's an insult to himself.
Um, I would say we are a local publishing media company that focuses on soccer in the area. That's how I would describe it. And I am the one who writes the ratings, meaning that I guess I am the smart one if we're just going off of what Steven's saying. And as the smart one on the podcast, I am telling you to go ahead and subscribe because it's well worth your money. Even if you don't like the perks, even if you're like, I hate Discord, I will never be a Discord member in my life. Even if you're saying that, which is a weird thing to say. But even if you're saying that, knowing that you're supporting local coverage of the game should be enough for you can support and you can get enough coverage from audio, video, and obviously so much written content from the best voices of Nashville soccer.
Um, just to also shout out to pharmasoccer.com, get some gear. Mary and I both wore Pharma Soccer gear for the game on Saturday, which means that clearly it's magical. So you should get a Pharma Soccer shirt. They've got a pretty good record at home this year. I'm sure that those things are related. Multiple people came up to both me and Valera while we were there to say that they listened to our show. I didn't catch one's name, but shout out to Alexis, I think that was the name, who said hi to me while I was getting my designated driver drink in one of the concession lines. So
Hold on. I have a name. I have a couple
yeah.
names. I think I have an Andy. Andy,
Oh,
yes.
Nahar, really?
Nahar?
Not Nahar. Not Nahar. I have an Andy. And hold on, one more. Oh, and David, yes, from the Discord. I think I had his question on the Schaffelberg episode. So David from the Discord, who I finally met in person, and Andy, who said he's been a listener for a while, who we also met. And then there was one lady, and maybe that is Alexis, I'm not sure, who
Different
kind
one.
of she turned and she said, "I love your podcast," and walked away. And I didn't get a chance to ask her name, but very thankful for all of you guys and keep it up. We
Hey,
like to
Steven,
hear
did
that.
you get any shout outs in DC for
I was
the
just
Yeah.
going to make a joke about not getting any shit. Thank you, Clay. I really do appreciate that. I am waiting for, I do have, so I just moved into a new space and I've been waiting for somebody to acknowledge, like, one of the first things I had to get was my Nashville SC yard sign out on the, out on the front yard, waiting for that to be either, I don't know, like graffitied on or, something of the sort, but no. Not yet. So shout out to the people that live in DC that are Nashville fans that haven't mentioned anything to me about it. But we get to talk about the actual match itself. Nashville SC winning 5-1, beating Orlando City. Of course, Sam Surridge getting 2 goals, Hani Mukhtar getting 2 goals, and then Palacios going and getting a goal in the 94th minute. I mean, I think we just have to start off talking about Sam Surridge and Hani Mukhtar specifically. Like, I think those two have absolutely killed it. Yes, Clay.
Well, I was going to say, I was the person who sits next to me who also listens to the show. So shout out to Aaron. I turned to him after the first half and I was like, the main criticism of Nashville this year is that it's just Hani and Sam. And it's not incorrect. And this game does little to dispel that. But being just Hani and Sam is pretty good.
Well, yeah, and it's good, and it's also better than what we've had before
Oh,
in
yeah.
MLS because it was only just Hani. So now we just have Hani and Sam. Like, now we actually
So
have 2 people involved. So
MLS
if
goal
one,
involvements.
huh?
MLS goal involvements. Hani has 25. Sam Surridge has 24, which is the most for any teammates in the league. That is 4 more than Messi and Suarez. I mean, given more matches played, obviously, but it's a pretty elite little group to be in.
This, I mean, which one of them? I mean, in this game, I think they both performed fantastic. Who are you giving more credit to this season at the current moment, Hani or Sam?
I'm always gonna be on the Houndy track. I think anytime there's a creator who's also a finisher, even if they don't finish at the rate of the actual finisher, I will always look. I grew up watching Arsene Wenger soccer. we, we created a lot and didn't finish a whole lot. Okay, so I'm always just gonna be partial to that, and I think that's gonna be something that I enjoy watching more. Obviously, the finishing is great, and maybe a few more seasons with Arsenal and Victor Gyökeres, I'll change this answer in the future. But at the moment, and just from a personal preference, I will always prefer the person who can create and finish. Now, that doesn't say Sam is not worthy of Player of the Season or an award like that. Definitely worthy of it. I just if I will just put Hani a tad bit above Sam Surridge on that ranking.
I mean, I think we've possibly set a record for most amount of Premier League references that we've made in one episode as of today. It is definitely a possibility. Um, but I think especially from a Hani standpoint, I think it's crazy how much that he's been able to adjust his game and still be so like it's so much contribution into what he is doing because he has gone from being the only one scoring goals specifically for this team to being able to contribute with so many assists to somebody like Sam Surridge to be so much more of a creator than to be the only one that is relied on scoring while still having the ability, of course, to score goals as we were shown on Saturday. Hani gets
I,
a lot of credit for what he's doing. I think Sam is finally starting to become the player we expected him to be, as in, hey, all we need is this number 9, right? All we need is this guy to score the goals, and then Nashville is going to be dominant. He's finally becoming that person.
I do think it's interesting to think about the only real difference between them in terms of scoring is the penalties. Like if Hani were taking penalties, they would be pretty close to level on goals, I think. But which he has in
Well,
the past.
based on history, if Hani takes penalties, they might not
Well,
be leveling scoring.
based on Sam's history too. I mean, like they're
I'm,
not.
I'm just I'm just
Yeah,
being
I mean,
I'm just yeah
they
no.
convert probably about the same rate for their career. But what I'm just pointing
If
out
Valera was
that
British, he'd be taking the piss, mate.
like
That is true.
I was just pointing out that like that's really the difference is that, like the one thing that stands out to me. I agree. I think Honey's the player of the season. But the one thing that I find interesting, and this is another like check mark because we've talked a lot about watching Nashville become a soccer town, like starting to understand more of the game. And I think that if you ask this to the general Nashville fan, a lot of them would be split on Hani or Sam, despite the fact that Sam has scored a lot more goals. Just judging on the conversations I've had with people at games, some of which are big soccer fans, some of which are fairly new, and I just find it very like heartening that people see the creative aspect of it more than maybe they did a few years ago. And it does help that we're also talking about a guy who has scored a boatload of goals as well.
Well,
In
and he
his
has the cachet, right? I mean,
yeah,
he's been there, done that before. But I will say to your point, how many I've seen so many Eddie Taxas jerseys. Obviously, he's become a fan favorite, and that's a guy who doesn't score or assist really a
right,
whole lot. So
absolutely.
that is a testament to that fan base, and same thing with Andy Nahar, who only assists pretty much. But I've seen a lot of love shown to those players who, and the more Nashville wins, the more the love is spreading. You'll see more shout outs here and there going around for players who maybe in the past when Nashville at least wasn't as good, they weren't getting as much attention.
I do think that that is. I don't know that it's necessarily uniquely Nashville, but to use BJ Callahan's words, but I do find it heartening when you see all of the like bit player is a strong word, but like one of the more fun things about going to a Titans game is seeing all the jerseys of these random players who like weren't Pro Bowlers. Like, Cortland Finnegan. I've always seen a Cortland Finnegan jersey at every Titans game I've been to. Drew Bennett. Like Nashville does tend to like grab some workhorse player of some sort and prop them up. And so that is a fun little aspect of being a fan in the city.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting, especially at the end of the season. Who maybe we could do it. Hey, maybe we could do a Twitter or a poll of who do you think has been more impactful, Honey or Sam? Especially at the end of the season, I think it might be a lot of fun to do. But I do think who was also impactful at that match was the back line and Jesse and Palacios and Walker Zimmerman, who seemed very comfortable back there. I do think that is where, Orlando kind of subbing out, having, 8 players subbed out, made it a lot easier for our defense to kind of get their confidence back a little bit, because Orlando did not play a lot of their offensive minded players. When they did put in their offensive minded players, they scored right away. Um, but I do think this is probably something our defense probably needed in terms of confidence, especially Walker Zimmerman.
Yeah, I think so. I think Walker, even in this game, started off a bit rusty. There was like a weird couple passes. He mishit a couple balls, misunderstood maybe a little bit of the positioning he and Palacios had on a couple of them. And that's kind of to be expected almost. It's also to be expected of Walker Zimmerman to adjust those in game and improve upon it right away. And he did that, and that's what you get with a guy who is able to see maybe a couple things didn't work out and be able to adjust those and improve them throughout the match. Something that maybe somebody like Jack Mayer might struggle with a little bit doing in-game sort of movement, and maybe even Jason Palacios. But generally, when you start off with two center backs, you're sticking with them most likely until the end of the match. And for those two, Jason Palacios really needed this match. I thought what I knew Walker Zimmerman was getting into the lineup. I knew that was going to happen. Like, not from an information standpoint. I just knew, like, it looked like BJ Callahan really wants Walker Zimmerman in there. I was between both Jack Mayer and Palacios on who he will replace, and I was pretty like convinced myself that it's going to be Palacios, the one that will go out, because I do think his form kind of took a hit. But having that confidence from BJ and him being able to pay it off with a really really good performance, I thought he was really good, especially in that first half. But then even in the second half, the goal, I know it bounces off of him, but it's a really, really hard ball to deal with. And I don't know if I can blame him for that necessarily. But overall, I thought he really needed this to kind of get back to form and show a little bit of what his worth is for Nashville SC. So I would wager BJ will stick with this combo for a while. Maybe for the Cup game, we'll see a little bit of changes, around that time. But for now, I do believe they will stick with those two.
I don't think there's any question that the most dynamic center back pairing is Palacios and Zimmerman in terms of what they can give you, really on both halves of the field. Uh, I think that when all three are playing their best, um, Mayer very much has an argument for being in the side, but he maybe doesn't give you some of the added stuff, whether that's scoring off of dead ball situations or maybe recovery runs that a Palacios can give you. And Zimmerman and Palacios are both mistake prone at times. Not enough to be really worried about it. It's just the nature of the way that they play. So, like, the most interesting, if you're going to score a bunch of goals, those are the two you want out there. But they hadn't, up until this particular game, they hadn't shown a lot of why they should both be out there at the same time this season. And this next little stretch of games, because let's be honest, Atlanta is a game that Nashville should win. If they can really get something to go and get in rhythm, that will probably be the pairing to end the season, I would imagine.
Yeah, and I do think it's interesting because one of the things that we talked about last week was, Jack Mayer is at his best when he's getting consistent playing time with a consistent center back partner. So I am very curious on how that does affect him, especially going forward, because I do think it is going to be a rotation of the three, especially with the Open Cup match, kind of being midweek, throughout this stretch. But I also think BJ knows that he has to stick with a hot hand, especially going forward, as the Supporters Shield competition and the competition in the East, kind of continues. Speaking of staying with a hot hand, we got to talk about the other hot hand of the room, and that's Jacob Schaufelberg, who has now solidified himself as our starting right wing in this lineup, it seems like, over the past 2 matches. Yeah, I mean, I feel like you gotta applaud him.
Yeah, I mean, it's more of a hot foot than a hot hand, I'd imagine, but,
Thank you
um,
very much, Clay. I was
you
just
know,
making a reference, but cool.
um, but I will here's the thing. Every time that a winger has looked like they've established themselves as the player for that role, they've immediately taken a step back. And Schaffelberg, this is the first that he's looked like a star out there this season. And even with that, for 40 minutes, I was so annoyed with him because he was getting into the right spots. He was getting in the right area, then not picking up his head or making the wrong decision. Like he did it. If you go back and watch that game, Nashville probably should have at least 2 more goals if Schaffelberg makes the right decision. But then he makes up for it, which is what you want to see. And he's a lot more decisive. From then on, he gets the assist, obviously, in the 40th minute. But he was a lot better. He really rounded into form in that game. But his best performance is still almost a half of me being annoyed at the wrong choices being made. But yeah, it's a great game. He's got 3 goal contributions in the last 2 games. You can't complain about that at all.
And that is generally the life of a winger, just for different reasons than what Jacob Schallenberg was annoying Clay for. Generally, wingers just try to be their defender, and they'll do it half of the time. They'll be the defender, but the other half, you're punching the air, like you're angry about what's going on and why are they not doing this right. So that's the life of a winger. First, I will say this about Jacob Schaffelberg. Um, or sorry, about the winger position. One winger who's been on the same form, really good since the start of the season until now is Alex Muyl. And, he's not doing what these other wingers are doing. So I agree with that. However, he's the only one who has been consistent, selected, and not only by BJ Callahan, by every coach who's ever coached this man. I honestly I know this is an Alex Muyl podcast, and we've talked about it a lot, but it's not even a bit.
It
Like
is.
it's actually like really, really impressive how hard he works and how no matter what the situation is, no matter how the team is playing, no matter formation, no matter coach, this man is being selected every single day almost, every single game almost. And I just think that's like really, really like underrated thing that Naflesi has had from a guy who is nearing legendary status just simply by sheer numbers.
I
So
love.
Okay.
I mean, it's so on brand for there to be a Schaffelberg point and Valaire turn it into Alex Williams.
no, no,
Seriously,
I just
man.
thought what you
Don't
said about
get it. Like,
Schaffelberg makes sense. I thought what you said about Schaffelberg makes sense. I
No,
just
I
didn't
know.
feel
I'm
like
just
adding
joking.
like
It's just
I,
funny.
I think you summarized it really well. I mean,
I
he's
didn't
come
know
to his
what to
own.
add, so I'm going to talk
Every
about the one player I know mostly about. How have you not done an on air with Valaire with Alex Mawil yet?
Oh, that's a sore
Listen,
subject,
that's the
Stephen.
hard subject to talk about at the moment. But I will say this about Schaffelberg and all these other wingers. You're right. I mean, they come in and go. And now, if you can get in form, I will. One thing about Schaffelberg, I will mention: if you can get in form at this point of the season, that's obviously the most important point of the season. That and the other thing that he has, and I do believe he has over the other 2 wingers he's fighting with, and that is Johnny Perez and Ahmed Qasim. I believe he has the best relationship with Hani Mukhtar. And that is a very, very important thing. And I don't mean like relationships like they're friends off the pitch. They might be, I don't know. But I'm just saying, like on the pitch, they combine really well. They obviously showed it in the last 2 games. But overall, he has the most he knows his runs. Mukhtar knows his runs. And I asked Mukhtar about it. And Mukhtar said, like, Schaffelberg brings the best out of him and Andy on that right side, and they bring out the best out of Schaffelberg on that right side. And I think that's a really good way of looking at it.
Well, and I think and this goes back to talking about the Palacios and Zimmerman thing. It's like Schaffelberg can do the one thing that none of the other wingers can do, which is he is just a much quicker attacker. He makes
Yeah.
Nashville more dynamic going forward. Like he may not have necessarily the levels of creativity that the other guys have, like on the ball, but he's a lot faster than the other guys. And so when you're playing a counterattacking game, which Nashville on the counterattack is probably among the best in the league, certainly up there with the likes of like San Diego this season, like just deadly, deadly, deadly when they get the ball in transition. that's a really good thing to have in your back pocket. And if he could just that final third, it's always been the same thing with Schaffelberg, by the way. It's always been the same thing. If he can just get the final third in order, or at least close to order, then Nashville becomes a much, much, much better team just by that little piece.
Yeah, another kind of. I mean, it's hard not to talk about bright spots in a 5-1 victory, but I also think Josh Power played a fantastic match against Orlando. We. I don't think he was bad against New York. I do think maybe he could have been better on a couple of the goals, but I do think he kind of played that position well. But I do think he solidified that he can be, a starting, a left back or right back, not even just for Nashville, but in the league itself, that he is a very capable defender in a lot of ways that we are extremely lucky to have as a utility piece at Nashville, I would say. A guy that you could just stick anywhere in the defense and he's going to, perform at a high level.
One might say that Josh Bauer is the Alex Whale of backup defenders.
I
And I will say this: I think his performance in NYCFC for some reason caught a lot of hate. Look, the whole team didn't perform well. Okay, this guy playing out of two positions. It's not. He's not going to be your answer in a game like that. And I think he just caught a lot of flack for honestly no reason. I mean, the entire team was not playing well, and the two goals didn't even come from his side for NYCFC. So I just didn't understand where the hate was coming from, because I don't know, maybe because I was there in person, but I didn't see him as like such a eyesore, or like somebody who stuck out as like not being able to perform. So really, really, obviously, 2 assists for him. He already has 2 goals this season. So really crazy. He has the same stat line as like Jacob Schaffelberg, and a better stat line than the other wingers, which is insane because he's a backup defender. So that's just a testament to his quality, I think.
Yet Valero will bring up Alex Moyle first, who wasn't even on the rundown before bringing up Josh Bauer. Anyway, just so everybody knows. One other player that we do need to talk about, I do believe, would be Gaston Brugman, who took the spot for Eddie Tagseth in that match. I think we talked about how, I don't know if it was just a bad performance from Eddie against NYCFC. I think a lot of it is just exhaustion, where he is a player that plays a lot of minutes and runs a lot of miles, and it's new to this league, where I think him probably getting a rest day is probably nice, and I think Gaston Brugman did a fantastic job in his spot.
This is the first thing that Valère and I talked about when I saw him at the stadium, like literally within 30 seconds of seeing him, was talking about Tagseth coming out of the starting lineup and how it probably was the right time to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense for BJ to make this move, especially at a home game where there's space to be exploited by Orlando, and there was space, man. I don't know if you saw. There's a lot of space to be exploited, and I thought Brugman took really good advantage. One thing that surprised me about Brugman that I didn't think he had in his locker was the defensive abilities. I thought he was really, really good stopping a couple of the Orlando attacks, and stopping some transition moments that I really just hadn't noticed as a strength of his. So that was a nice surprise. And I wouldn't be surprised if he starts again against Atlanta, especially with it being a home game. That doesn't mean Taxeth has lost his position or he's never coming back again. It just means that sometimes these players need a break. And when, like Steven says, when you cover the entire pitch every game, you need a little bit of time. And Taxeth was getting really, really upset during the last couple of games. He got really close to a red card, and it's just not worth it for him to kind of ruin this form he has even worse. So taking him off, giving him a little bit of rest, and re-including him in the team will probably be the best as the playoffs approach.
Well, yeah,
One of
just
the
like
things
we
I
were.
really go ahead,
Go ahead,
Steven.
Clay.
I was just saying, one of the things I really like about Brugman is that he makes the simple pass that unlocks a lot of things. The passes that Tagseth hadn't been making the last few weeks, and I can't remember if it was the first goal. I think it was the first goal that it was just a very simple pass, but it was in transition, and we saw that pass not come off against New York City FC a few times. And so it was just nice to like. I think of that. I think of maybe it was the DC game where it was just Nashville was turning the screw, and he just kept playing the simple pass in to keep things moving forward, to keep the pressure on the goal. And Tagseth has done that at times this year. So I don't want to take that away from him. But we talk about Tagseth because he runs around the field, he breaks up plays, he does the nice things. But Brugman can really do that, and I think Patrick Yazbek has shown that he can do that as well. And I think that Tagseth will probably get back in the starting 11 at some point. But if this is your starting duo in the midfield, I think Nashville can win very important games with these two guys in the midfield, which is
I
a
mean,
good
I
thing to
think it's
know. I
very
mean, we want people pressing at every position. Like, the team is better if there's competition at every position.
It's very similar to the defense. I don't think there's anything against Jack Mayer specifically when it comes to him being a starting quality center back. I just think also he's another player that probably needed some rest that you could switch out. I mean, heck, the way Yazbak has been playing phenomenally, but he's put a lot of miles in the past few weeks when it comes to I wouldn't be shocked if Eddie, gives Yazbak a break, at least to start against Atlanta. So, like, I don't think it's anything against Eddie himself for being on the bench. I think he probably needed a break, and I think it's a nice problem to have between the three of those center midfielders, and looking forward to seeing what happens throughout the rest of the season.
And I know it's not on the rundown, but Patrick Yazbek has been the brightest spot in Nashville's sort of bad run. And he's been able to really, really come to his own. I think, Steven, you gave him props last week, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
And then this game again. And I do think the combination of Yazbek and Brugman works better than Eddie and Brugman because Yazbek is more willing to hang back and let play be in front of him. But look, like Steven said, especially in this Atlanta match that's coming up, Atlanta's bad, y'all. Like, so if they're gonna try something different that maybe isn't like the ideal way, that would be the match to do it.
And speaking of bright spots as well, we need to talk about the rest of the East and other MLS news because it's kind of helped out Nashville a little bit. And we're going to talk about that next, right here on Pharmaceutical Soccer. And we are back. Last segment of the show, Pharmaceutical Soccer at PharmaSoccer on our Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Of course, 615soccer.com. Please make sure you do check that out. Would love to have you be a part of what we're doing at 615 Soccer. Please check it out. Also, make sure you check out pharmasoccer.com. The merch is, I wish, Clay, I need you to start making a record specifically for like merch related stuff of like what matches and the score. Like, what is our goal differential when wearing PharmaSoccer merch at home? Kind of need that stat line kind of figured out. So,
well, it does feel like the winningest shirt that people can buy is the Pharma Boys shirt, which is that seems to be the one that I see the most.
absolutely.
So,
So please go check that stuff out. Would love to have you. Transfer window also done last week when it comes to MLS transfer deadline. So anything interesting stand out to you, Clay, specifically when it came to the transfer deadline? I think Cincinnati probably had the
yeah.
most fun window, like the most ridiculous fun window that I don't get at all, but cool. Like, enjoy it.
They did the most to strengthen themselves, which is, as annoying as Cincinnati is, uh, they're willing to spend money, and you got to give them credit for doing that. And they're already one of the best teams in the league, and they're bringing back Brenner, of course, but they went out and specifically looked to strengthen their squad. And you look at their squad right now, and that's a squad that would be in non-Messy years, you'd be looking at that going like, oh my goodness. Even just defensively, like you've got national teamers on the back line, you've got MVP candidates, and it's hard to, it's hard to remember that they let an MVP go. Like,
That's fair.
it's a pretty it's pretty impressive, and if
They
the
also
entire
sold their
league,
starting right back during this transfer, which I don't find. But
well, but they
I'm
replaced
sure
them, so
contract relation stuff.
but
Yeah,
the but if every owner in MLS showed the ambition that Cincinnati has shown within the rules, then the league would go up several notches. And it's related. Like, apparently Nashville was in for I'm just based on his name as I'm saying it right now. But there's a report that Nashville was in for a $6 million player as well in the window that they didn't get. But it is if the more owners that start to show that sort of ambition, the better the league will get. And if they're gonna break the rules, like that's not
You
as
know who
cool.
else
But
is?
like, change the rules. I don't care. Whatever. It's just I'm all here. I'm very here for folks trying to raise the level of the league.
I mean, you know who else is absolutely kind of doing a lot in the transfer window would be Nashville SC gathering an international spot from DC United. Normally we're selling those, but to acquire one was very interesting. But nothing has really came from that yet, Blair. Nothing has been announced with that.
Yeah, nothing from a Nashville SC perspective. I would be surprised if at this point is a new signing. I think Jeff, who runs NSC Stats, and Ben, we're kind of speculating this might be used for a Huntsville player or players. And I think that seems to be more likely. I feel like if they had signed somebody, we would have heard about it by now. Again, I don't have information on this, but it's just kind of what I'm thinking is they're going to be using it for. So for Nashville, the other big move, obviously, on the transfer window was completing the transfer of Johnny Perez, which I know Johnny Perez has been here for a while, so it doesn't feel like a new signing at all. But it was a 1.5 million cash or cash transfer, and that's the first time Nashville has used this mechanism. Obviously, they get two of those each season, both ways. So two sells and two intra-league buys with cash. They've used one of them, 1.5 million on Johnny Perez. Can go up to 1.8 depending on some bonuses and stuff like that. So we'll see. I do think he has the potential to maybe, I think he has the potential to make that investment worth it for Nashville, whether it's coming in and playing his important role with the team or even being sold later on. And that's really the sort of big positive of signing a player who is 22 years of age.
It is funny because we were talking about, oh, how does for months we were talking about he needs to be signed. How does Nashville get the job done? Which I think all of us forgot about the cash mechanism specifically that was possible.
I didn't.
I
We
No,
said it. You forgot. Don't be. Ben and I were talking about it. Like I think it's in a couple articles. I'm pretty sure too.
yeah.
Yeah,
The
you
question,
forgot, Steven. Yeah.
the
I
question
didn't
always
forget.
was,
Then you did fine.
the question always was, when does it happen? More than anything else, because LA couldn't take him back under MLS roster rules. They didn't have the room. So it was, how does this happen and how can Nashville take advantage of it? And they did it in a way that gives them the most roster flexibility. So I am sure that Nashville was always going to wait until later on to complete it, just on the basis of like it'd be dumb to do it any earlier than that because you don't know what's going to happen on the international transfer market. So if you only have a limited amount of times that you could use it, it makes sense because he can't go anywhere because he can't go back to LA. So, but yeah, I mean, it seemed like this was kind of heading this direction for the last several months. Once it became clear that Perez can be a starting quality winger in this league, um, it was always a matter of when, not if.
And I will say the original agreement with LA Galaxy was for a GAM, and it was maybe around the same rate, probably lower than the cash offer that Nashville ended up doing. But that was before the cash offers were even allowed in this league, so they couldn't have planned for this. So now that there is another mechanism where Nashville get to save their GAM, I think this is a very savvy move because Perez is also joining on a U22 deal, which means he doesn't hit the cap at a higher level, which actually gave them enough of the GAM back to buy the international slot we're talking about.
Standings, like we said, Nashville currently in third place. Cincy dropping points over the weekend, which was extremely nice to see, especially with all the moves that they made. Inter Miami also drawing against DC United, only getting that draw by probably goal of the season. I would say, from the Miami
Very
showcase.
nice.
It was phenomenal, and not done by Messi, so that was fantastic. We were talking about just the difference between the East and the West, and I think it's extremely interesting to think about. Chicago, who's currently in 10th place with 39 points, would be in 6th place right now in the West. Like, it is crazy how big the competition is in the East currently. Hey, did you guys know that Charlotte is only 3 points behind us in 4th place? I did not know Charlotte was there.
Yeah, they have 7 wins in a row now, which is insane thing to say in MLS. But Charlotte has 7 in a row. I watched their game on Sunday night soccer on Sunday night. Obviously, when else would I watch it? And it was against the Red Bulls. It it's not like they won in some sort of like really confident fashion or anything, but they're getting results. And at this point of the season, getting results is very important because they went from a team that's fighting for those play-in spots to a team who's technically still in the supporter shield race, which is an insane statement to say, but it's only a season like that where this supporters shield race. And you're right, things in the West is a lot different because of certain games that are about to happen in the West and because of who all plays all. San Diego FC became the first team in Major League Soccer to clinch a playoff spot, and that in itself is a huge surprise. Obviously, I think everybody on this show had them picked last. I think everybody in MLS offices had them picked last in terms of what they can do this season. That's the story of expansion teams. And even when
In
we've
my
seen,
defense, I picked Vancouver as being last, so I
I don't know if
think
that's
I did.
almost worse. I don't know honestly, but yeah. But I think the one thing I will say about San Diego is that they are doing it different than any other expansion team. They're playing their style, and it's a very expansive style. They could still be bounced in the first round. Who knows? But this is the earliest an expansion team has ever made MLS playoffs since the shootout era and all that. So it's a really big testament to what they're doing there. And maybe now that they've made the playoffs, they'll slow down on the supporter shield. I doubt it though, because honestly, they're right there in that supporter shield race, and I doubt they are going to be any less hungry for it.
Cool. All right. Who else Nashville plays? They play Atlanta United on Saturday at home. Another match against Atlanta. Um, guys, Atlanta's bad, but I don't know. I'm always worried when it's Atlanta, no matter what. They're
The
bad,
thing
though.
is, for Nashville, if you look at the schedule they have coming up, it's an absolute like gauntlet of teams coming up for Nashville, and it's both
Cincinnati, Philadelphia, Orlando,
yeah,
right after
and
Atlanta.
Miami. So at the end of the season. So I mean, like, it's not like Nashville SC has many opportunities. They do go to Montreal, which again should be a pretty easy match. I think Montreal got eliminated from the playoffs already. I'm pretty positive, actually. Let me double check. I don't know. Anyway, they're not good either. But other than that, it's the top of the top. And I think if you want to be taken seriously, and we said this about the St. Louis game, you have to take advantage of those results, and you have to take advantage of your home games. And that's both. You're playing a terrible team and you're playing at home. So you have to take advantage if you want to be taken seriously.
I don't know if you guys want to know this stat or not, given Nashville's history with stats like this. Do you guys know the last time Atlanta won as an away team in MLS?
I have no
I
idea.
don't, I don't want to know this stat. I think you're right about that one specifically.
Uh, it was November 9th, 2024.
God, we're gonna lose.
Against
Oh, I
Inter
hate this so
Miami.
much.
Their last league win was against Orlando. So, and that was back in, oh God, when was that? Uh, was it in? I mean, it's been months. They won some in the
Amazing.
Leagues Cup. Some teams gained momentum in Leagues Cup, like Orlando, and some teams win in Leagues Cup and nowhere else. Yeah, so May 28th was their last league win.
The playoffs seem like a pipe dream. I don't think they're mathematically out, but I mean, I just don't think it's happening for them. And then
So
for Nashville, they're chasing way bigger things than this like quote unquote rivalry that no one really seems to care about. I don't think we need to rehash that conversation. We've done it like at least 5 times on this show. But I will say this: I do think Atlanta will be trying to hang on to anything to motivate these players for a game like this, and I would be surprised if the quote unquote rivalry fans traveling, as I don't think there's going to be a lot of fans traveling, but I do think there will be some. I would assume that will be brought up as a point of motivation because they need to use anything to get those players motivated. So I don't think that's going to be lost on the game. I do think it's not going to matter as much just because of how different these two teams are this season. That said, Nashville still has to go out there and put their best foot forward and play like they are playing against San Diego or like they are playing against Columbus or like they're playing against Philly or any of those because as Clay says, every time they come in here, every time this topic comes up, this is a parity league, and teams are a lot closer in quality than you think. And not only that, Atlanta has spent the most money out of anybody else, and that quality isn't that money, and quality is going to show eventually. So, well, unless certain
yeah,
players, I guess. But that
Unless you're
said,
Arsenal.
it's I was gonna say Ake Loba, but sure, Arsenal too.
right.
But
The
so yeah, I think it's gonna be it's good. I think they're gonna be up for it, is what I'm saying. But there's no question that Nashville SC will be the overwhelming favorites going into the match.
only one man has single-handedly destroyed Atlanta more than Hani Mukhtar, and his name is William Sherman. And I would like to see Hani have one of those games against Atlanta because it's been a while since he has. But if you go and look at his history against Atlanta, it's pretty crazy. Um, I do think like this is the type of game that makes the people who have been Nashville fans for a little while nervous. You know, going even back to USL and Toronto FC days. But this is a game Nashville has to win. Nashville just has to win the game. They're playing at home. They're
Well,
against
let's
an outmatched opponent, and
wrap it up and
like
make the prediction,
it
Clay.
should be a name how many goals you want to score type performance for Nashville is what it should be. We'll see if it is.
Wrap up the show and make the prediction.
Well, you can follow me at Clay La Soul on Instagram and Twitter, and you can buy a shirt at farmasoccer.com. And you can settle in on Saturday for Nashville to get a 4-1 win over Atlanta with Hani making 4 goal contributions for the second straight game.
I think it's gonna be. I was gonna go with a crazy result, but Clay kind of did that. So first of all, follow me at Valer Shabilla on all socials, and please subscribe to 615soccer.com. Also, for Kicking It 615, if you don't know about us, go to ki615.org. We're a local nonprofit, and we need your help. So make sure to reach out if you can help with volunteering, or if you would like to donate, go ahead and donate, please. We would love to get anything of that sort. Again, ki615.org and at kicking615 on Twitter and Instagram. For my prediction, I will go with a 2-1 narrow Nashville win, and I will go with Sam Surridge goal as well as a Jacob Schaffelberg goal because hot hand, as Steven says. And yeah, it's going to be a little closer, but I think Nashville will pull through at the end.
Y'all are bugging and have no faith in this team, and it's starting to show. At PHStevenHD on all my stuff. Please make sure you go to Kicking It 615. I believe you are looking for a couple specific positions, Valaire, as a fundraising coordinator and a comms and social media coordinator. If any of those speak out to you and working to try to be in, a nonprofit soccer space, honestly, it's so much fun. They're doing fantastic work. Please check out KI615. I'm going to predict another 4-0 win for Nashville SC because that has worked out already. You can laugh at me all you want, but I'm the one that's closest in the predictions at the current moment than you two jabronis are. So I'm going to go with 4-0. I'm going to go with 2 goals from Hani Mukhtar, a goal from Eddie Tagseth gets a goal, and Walker Zimmerman.
The guy who said he's closest in predictions also predicted an Eddie Tagseth Golden Boot this year. So just wanted to remind you. But I have a question for you guys.
We are quick.
I'm mostly doing this because Steven keeps moving his fingers to make us like rush as if we have a commercial breakup coming and it's not our own show that we make. So settle down. But Sam Surge is on 20 goals. The Nashville SC team record is 23, set by Hani Mukhtar. I think all of us agree that he's probably going to hit that mark, right? Here's the real question. 24 gets you into top 10 in MLS history. 27 gets you to Bradley Wright Phillips for the highest scoring Englishman in the league. There are 6 games left, and Sam Surge mostly scores in bunches. What do we think his final goal tally will be for this year?
We did this in like maybe 2 months ago. I want to go back to our answers because I don't remember what I said. I will say
I remember mine.
I think he will surpass 23. I don't think he'll get to 20 more than 25. I struggle to see that.
Yeah. It's just one of those. If he goes out and scores 4 against Atlanta, then everything is open.
If he scores 4 against Atlanta, there's going to be a party at Geodis Park.
Well, he's already got a 4-goal game this season, so it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. I still think he finishes second when it comes to Messi scoring. Oh, yeah. I still think Messi scores more goals.
Unfortunately, yes.
Unfortunately,
I agree.
Thank you guys again so much for listening to the show.
We truly total.
What? 28, 26.
Okay. I'm going 25. I'm sticking with Valaire.
Can I just go with a range between 20 and 30? Does that work? Is that possible?
Sure, buddy.
Just wrap the show up, Steven. You're taking too long.
Literally a bunch of bullies. Thank you so much
guys for listening. Love you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Really appreciate it. I hope everybody has a great rest of your week.